name is Ebony because my mother was an artist. My mom said she got a lot of flack for naming that white baby Ebony, but that was my mom's pen name. My dad wanted to name me Java Rook. He was a black wrestler, like WWE style wrestler. So anybody from my dad's side or from the west side of Elyria that older, they call me Rook. And it's most like Rook Rook. That's what they would say. But everybody, I've always went by Ebony, but I embraced both names. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's where it came from. My mom's name is Pamela Jean Washington. Now it's Pamela Norfolk Jones. My father's name is James Ray Wright. They call him Cool Ray. My dad was born down in Ripley, Tennessee, and my mom was born in Steubenville, Ohio. It was me for like the first 12 years of my life, and then, well, not 12, it was like 10. And my father remarried, and he remarried Roxana Gordy. She is Barry Gordy's niece. My dad, he was with Warner Brothers, and they both were in the record. She ran the distribution in New York, and my dad was dealing with it, so he and her fell in love, over music and with each other. And so they had two sons, my brother David Ray Wright, and then my little brother Robert Earl Wright. That was one of the grandest weddings I ever been to. Like when I went, they had like this big wedding at this big Catholic church, and then it was a reception at Barry Gordy's house, and it was like this pool. Like the whole place was, was just like this resort. I mean, even this in the 80s, had a bowling alley downstairs, and then they rented out this nightclub. And I mean, I think I'm like 10 years old. No, I'm serious. I'm 10 years old, and I'm out there doing the Soul Train line. Super Freak was hot. Oh man, dance with these older girls, man. I thought these women, I was like, I was living it. And then my mom, she remarried. She married a gentleman from Lorraine, Larry James Norfolk. Great dude. My father's parents was Dorothy Perkins from Lauderdale County, Tennessee. James Roy Wright was my grandfather, and he was a great man. Great dude, man, seriously. My grandmother, she's still alive. Dorothy Wright, she's like, I think 95, 96. Wow. Learned a lot from her. Yeah, I knew they both were teachers down in Tennessee. My grandfather got the Purple Heart. He was in, I do believe, World War II. The reason why they came up to Elyria is because, at this time they rounded up a bunch of dudes down in Tennessee, and they were going to lynch some. And one of the dudes that they were going to lynch, or one of the gentlemen, was my grandfather. And I guess when they took the hoods off of them, it was a voice that came out the crowd that said, that's Roy Wright. He's a good worker. Don't lynch him. So they let him go. And at the time, my grandfather had 3 children and a wife, and he left. And he came up here, and then he sent for his family. It didn't deter him from going back to Tennessee, but he knew he had to get out of there. He was kind of private, about the trauma in his life, but it affected him. Yeah, and when you get older, you realize, he drank a lot. The effects of the trauma and lack of coping mechanisms, but he was able to, he stopped. He found rehabilitation on his own. You did like cold turkey. And so the man that I knew, my grandfather Roy was fantastic. I mean, he took me when I went to homecoming. He he always wore these hats. He was bald. I remember them cutting his hair, cutting him bald because he was, he had a little ring. Yeah, but he would always wear hats. He was stylish. And then when I was like in 9th grade, and I took this young lady to prom. He had this Cadillac, and he chauffeured me around. He had us sit in the back, and he chauffeured me around, and it was just there. He was there when my dad couldn't be. The funny story too is when we bought this house, because he knew your family, and he was like, you don't buy no house. It's too much for you. You don't know how to do it, and so. In order to get approval, there were some things that needed to be fixed out here. And one thing that needed to be fixed was I had to scrape the paint up on the 3rd floor. We had to scrape the paint or the loan wouldn't be approved. So my wife Ingrid, is outside holding on to the window and painting. And I'm on the inside handling her stuff just because I was too wide to get out there at the time. We didn't have a ladder. So he rolled up in his truck and he's looking up. And he's like, man, y'all gonna be all right. And I was like, thanks. And he was like,
so you got his blessing.
Yeah, I got his blessing. Yeah, and that was yeah, that meant a lot. You know, he said, yeah, y'all gonna be all right. And I'm like, that's him. He was missing a finger, and he would go like this, especially when he was mad. You don't do nothing. You don't tell him. Anyway, sorry. My granddad. My mom's mother was Emily Chapman. And my mom never knew her father. I did some research, not quite sure how accurate I am, but my mother, she was told that her father was Sam Walker. It is not. When I did some of the lineage, like on 23andMe and Ancestry, we had Fred McGee. He was a Korean War hero that never got recognition for some of the acts of bravery he did. And apparently they made a comic strip or a cartoon about his acts, and they made him white. And so back in the day, and it was just kind of like this crazy thing. I'm sitting on a plane and I'm reading this story about Bill Clinton honoring this guy, honoring a black soldier. They're giving him his recognition for who he was. And I'm on the plane reading this story about this dude, and I'm looking at him. He's got like this white hair, little round dude. And man, you know, I'm reading a story about my uncle's father and my grandfather, not knowing, you know, that's who it is. And my grandmother was, you know, very nice, very, you know, beautiful, loved her to death. But when it came time to telling the truth about, you know, personal things, maybe her trauma, she could never deal with it. It was always covered up. You kind of romanticize that, like, you don't carry it. You won't carry that to your grave, because you carry something to your grave. There's no healing for anybody else. And she was going through, you know, cancer, and she passed away from cancer, but she never told my mom, you know, like the truth. Yeah, she took it. You know, that's that curse, but it's really just pain. You know, when they talk about family curses, it's just pain that you can never get past. Like the injustice, just let me know. It's not on you, right, to decide what I can handle, what I can't. Just let me know. I wound up working, it was that following summer, working at Cedar Point, and that's when I met my wife, Ingrid. I just met her, and it was like 6 months later, I saw her again, and we had been together like ever since. We had our son Miles Wright in 1993, 30 years old now. And then we had our daughter Sienna Wright in 1995. And after we had Sienna, my mom and my Aunt Beverly Wright or Beverly Worthy said I needed to do right by that woman. And you can't be having, you know, babies with this girl and not marry her. And I ain't really take her serious. I was like, man, that girl, I mean, Ingrid don't want to marry me. So I got a job working at Continental, which became my career. A flight attendant for 31 years now. So I'm ironing my clothes, and I turn around and I was like, man, mom and Aunt Bev said, you want to get married? And I'm ironing, and she was like, well, yeah, I do. I was like, for real? You really want to marry me? And she was like, yeah. I was like, well, okay. When you want to get married? And she was like, well, you got to ask me. And I was such a fool. Oh, man. I'm like, well, I am asking you. And I go, oh. So I walk around, and I get down on one knee, and I asked her. But it was real stupid. So I've been making up for that.
Ever since.
Man, I mean, for my anniversaries, I surprise her. I do these over-the-top things because I felt really bad that I deprived her of that opportunity. Yeah. So after we got married, I cooked dinner for everybody, and it was awesome. It was a foundation of what our life was to become.
Wow.
Ingrid and I got married in 1995 out in Norwalk at my father-in-law's house. The only true legitimate heir to my fortune is my daughter Elna. She was the only one born after we got married, and so that's why she's the best. Elna was born in 1998, and it was the year 97 is when we got the house. And I remember like taking some stuff down and having a fire because it was lath wood, and and you know, it was a lot of smoke, and I put her in a fire pit. But when Eleanor was born, and we found out that she had, you know, some birth defects, I go back to that point thinking, man, because I didn't know, because they were talking about like lath being laced with lead and asbestos and stuff like that. And so I go back to that point where Ingrid was pregnant with her, and I'm like, man, did I do that, you know, by, you know, burning that stuff? Because we were all around looking at, oh, it was the heat and all this other stuff. And I just felt it's always been something that was,
in the back of your mind.
yeah, hereditary spastic paraplegia. And that is kind of like an MS where your body just, she was born, she could army crawl, and she could talk on a limited basis, but over time, those functions deteriorate. And so, you know, she can't do that anymore. And she has a rare form of that disease. And then the doctors that told us that, you know, we know more about the disease than they do, because it's so few people
With
that, yeah, and it's always misdiagnosed, because for the first like 7-8 years, they thought she had CP, cerebral palsy, but it wasn't typical because she was losing the ability to do things. And so there's Dr. McCandless, he was a geneticist. He reluctantly told us after her diagnosis, her official diagnosis, what it was. We had hoped it was going to be something else because it was curable, but this particular situation, you know, it is not. I wanted to be a better father. And so I wanted to be there for my kids. And so that was my number one rule, was, oh man, you know, I'm a great dad. But my wife, I wasn't a great husband. I'm thinking, if I'm a great father, she's going to be happy with that. But if I'm putting her second, and I'm not, you know, honoring her, or I'm not putting her first, my kids are not witnessing a loving exchange between me and my wife, how is that going to help them in their relationship? So no matter how much I love them, if I didn't love my wife, you know, how are they going to deal with a relationship with someone, you know, that they're in love with? And so one of the lessons that I had to learn was to put my wife first. I'm telling you, that is it. You got the right woman, you got the right person in your life, you put them first and you honor them. You don't put anything else in front of her. Not your friends. I don't care if they've been your boys. This is your woman. When you two are partnership, and you two work well together, as we were talking about earlier, and you're going to be all right. That would be my one thing. Yeah, honor your woman. You put her first. Started off at Gates School, which is no longer there. Then I went to Prospect on the east side. So I got my first paddle. Mr. Eaton paddled me. Oh, you used to get those weekly readers. In this one particular cartoon, this girl was running down the hall. She runs into a teacher. Boom. And the teacher's, you know, laying on the ground, and then you fill in what the caption was. And so the girl in the caption says, "I'm sorry, Mrs. So-and-so," and I wrote, "Kiss my ass." And then they take me down to Mr. Eaton. Man, got me. I was not happy about that. But when that happens to you, you think you're a bad kid. I changed because I thought I was bad. Not only am I one of the only black students, but now I'm thinking I'm bad because those things are in my head. And that changed me for a while. You don't start off that way, but you just know that the things that you're thinking are bad, you know, or if you can find humor in something that is wrong, you're like, oh man, good kids don't think like that. So then I wound up going to Windsor, and definitely the only black kid in that neighborhood. And that was a culture shock. That's when I realized I was black. I remember playing football with these kids in the street, and I clowned some kid, and the kid got mad, and he was like, you know, excuse my language, you know, fuck you, nigger. And the white kids are like looking at me, and they're looking, and I'm like, you're not gonna kick his ass? I'm like, for what? My grandfather at that time never talked to me about racism because you were around your people. When I was on the east side, I'm telling you, okay, I knew I was one of the only black kids in school. I felt different. I told you when I got paddled, and I started thinking that I was a bad kid.
Right.
But I was bad, and now I can identify it because I was black. They were like, I was being treated different because of my color.
Mm-hmm.
But at the time, I thought it was treated different because I was bad. You understand what I'm saying?
Man.
And so now I go from the east side to the north side, and I realized, no, I'm not like you. And from that point, I became not only bad, but I became a bully. In order to deal with being one of the few black kids there, I became more aggressive, and I became what I would say, I became a bully. And so I was on the offensive, so I didn't have to be on the defensive. And so I made choices and hurt some people probably like that lasted them, to this day, because I didn't know. So come the summertime, go down to North Pool, and this is where I finally saw other brothers on the north side. And so they would all there was a group of them, and I was down there like kind of by myself, but then I kind of got with that clique. And so we were all, they became my dudes from like the 6th grade until I went to high school, and I felt protected. They didn't know me, but they just knew I was black. And so they kind of, we stuck together. That was it. From there, I went to Northwood, and then I became small again. I wasn't the big bully or nothing. I'm actually I'm not a leader. I am a follower. So you just follow along because you knew there's more of us. But it's still different because they said we was rich because we lived on the north side. But my house got taken. My mom lost her job at Bendex. Car got repossessed. I remember going over and hanging out with this one kid, and his parents had asked me, "Oh, so what happened to your car?" I was like, "Oh, I don't know." My mom said, "It got repossessed or something." I don't know. And I remember them laughing, and I remember our grass was never cut because we didn't have a lawnmower. You had to go borrow somebody's lawnmower to cut your grass, and we had the crappiest yard in the neighborhood. And right now, it's clicking with me. The reason why I'm on top of my yard, or even when now I got my other house, my yard, even though these people are looking, I keep my yard tight. And I'm not even living there right now. I'm working on this house, but you ain't gonna say nothing. And I remember that feeling right now. That would make me sad right now because, you didn't have that. And I remember on the west side or growing up, you would go, if somebody came outside this one kid came outside with a fish stick, and I was hungry, I was playing, it's like, "Oh, I want one." And they were looking at me, and I was like, "Man, can I have one?" And they were like, "Well, I don't know, go ask my mom." So I go over and I knock on the door and I ask, "Can I have a fish stick?" And then they call me a moocher. Oh man, that stuck with me. You mooch, you effing mooch. I'm like, "What are you talking about?" It's like, where I grew up, it's like, if you want it, just some chicken, go ask my grandmother. You want fried chicken? Yeah, there's a chicken leg, I'll go get you one. But it's a cultural difference. I mean, when I thought about it, we growing up have more of community. You don't have to come in with an invitation. Even if it's somebody you don't like, and you be like, "Man, what the hell they doing here?" You still gonna eat. You still gonna let them come through. I don't know them. Yeah. And so, that hurt. When I came to the high school, like I said, my mama lost her job. We lost the house. We wound up moving over to 9th Street. It was a house. It started off just us. It was a triplex. Started off with just us. And then my grandmother moved in. And then my Aunt Kim moved in. So it was a triplex, but my mom's whole family lived in this one house. It was pretty amazing to have that for a couple years, but it was pretty dysfunctional too. It was sad, but it was still great to have that. And then I went to Elyria High School, and then my mom opened up her salon on Middle Avenue, 615 Middle Avenue. It was Textures Beauty Salon. So we left 9th Street, moved over to Middle. We lived up above it. And that's when I felt like I was like, we had it, because my mom was one of the hottest hairdressers in Elyria. Everybody was coming there Like it was coming to me, to our house, and then some. I don't mean to be disrespectful. Some of Mom's clients, young ladies, would come upstairs when they were done to hang out. So I thought that was cool. When I went to Elyria High School, I was supposed to graduate in 1989, and I failed my senior year. And the thing about that, I knew the first day of my senior year that I wasn't going to graduate. I just had no drive. I was like depressed. I don't know what it was. It just came over like I was not prepared for life. You're not realizing when I'm like just doing nothing, like with my life, like educationally, I'm like just getting by. I was smart. I could do the work. I was lazy, and I wouldn't do the work. You know, my friends from the north side is now broken off because I don't live by them anymore. You know, and I deal with the people that I roll with on the south side, my cousins, his friends, and stuff like that. So there was not a lot of conversations between them about going to college or what you were going to do, even though they were going to, but they weren't passing that information along to me. You know, it's not me and you hanging out. Well, what you about to do? Oh, I'm gonna go to Ohio State. Oh, okay, that's what's up. That's it. You ain't saying you should think about college or what are you going to do? And then you would see people go to college and then they would come back. Because at this time, like downtown Elyria, we had stage right, or the parking lot. So there wasn't any lit places for young teenagers to go. So we would all hang out in the parking lot and talk or, you know, drink or whatever you're going to do. And so, but the one thing you knew is when they came back from school, they was always angry. They were angry. They hated white people because they took Black studies. The first class they would take is, you know, about our culture. And then they would learn all these things about what happened to us. I remember it was like 3 straight years. It was like, man, I don't really want to go to college, man. You come back and you all pissed off. You know, you pissed off with everybody. Or, you know, pissed off about white people. It's like, man, that was my friend. Like, I don't even mess with white people no more because of this. I mean, it's a stupid thing. Yeah, I knew I was going to fail. I had no aspiration. So, but that was the thing that changed my life. Failing changed my life to where I'm at now. I began flight in 1993. Still there, fly all over. It's been that's where we get it wrong about like wealth. I think, you know, growing up for me, that's where I got it wrong. You think that having $1 million or you think that, you know, being a rapper or, you know, all this, that's wealth. Wealth is where you pay your bills and you can do what you want to do. You know, if you want to go out to dinner, if you want to go on vacation, that's wealth. You don't have to have an excess amount of money to be wealthy. It's happiness. It's like, okay, I'm free of that burden of thinking about, you know, where my next meal is coming from or how I'm gonna pay that bill, robbing Peter to pay Paul, or do I have to hustle somebody for something? You know, that's poor thinking right there. Wealth is where you are happy. And that's where I'm at. It's been a great career. I mean, I'm truly, truly grateful, and I'd recommend this career for anybody. It's been a tremendous, tremendous benefit to my life. What made me want to stay in Elyria was because I knew there were many, many, many young men around here like me. You know, need to sell drugs, you know, need to, you know, steal, rob. You don't need to do those things. I became a wrestling coach. And then I had these great relationships with these young, you know, men. And there were some girls that looked up to me. I talked to them about school. I knew that the foundation needed to be set early. I poured unconditional fatherly love into them. There's that meme that goes around, it's like, you know, realizing that there's only one man in your life that wants you to do better than him, and that's your dad. Or like the dad is on. No, there's more than that. And that's generally what I want for all those. And it's generally what I want for the city of Elyria. My wife wanted to go to like Avon or somewhere else. And I told her, Avon doesn't need somebody like me. They don't. They got plenty of dudes over there. Elyria needs somebody like me. I live in this neighborhood on the south side, on A Street, taking care of my stuff. And these young dudes walking up and down the street, they don't disrespect my yard. They see me out there working. They see me working on my house. Some of them even ask me, you know, where'd you learn how to do that? They watch that, so I was an example. This is where I'm from. I don't want to bail on my family. Dang, see, that was a slip. Elyria's my family. I don't want to bail on my family. I don't want to bail on my community. You know, I want them to be better. I want to change that. Hi, I'm Ebony Wright. Born, raised, and still live in Elyria, Ohio. That's it. Was that too?
No, that's from the heart, man.
No, it's real though.
Yeah,
That's real.
That's what we want.